Yeah, in my mind, there's really no competition with this movie for Best Animated Movie of the Year. I do think when it comes time for Oscar season that it's going to have competition coming from Inside Out 2. They just did such a good job telling the story visually. I
agree.
Especially like their use of light in this movie. I feel like
It's phenomenal.
they did Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and they were like, let's bring that into this next project of ours. They really brought the same animation caliber.
And there was an epic training montage in the middle of this film. No one told me how cool that was going to be.
Cool. With Thunderbolt.
Dude, he was going through full-out resistance training. There's a lot of aspects to filmmaking, so we want to make sure we give credit to every aspect.
Yeah, no matter who tells you that our rating system doesn't make sense, it does.
It does.
I promise it does.
Check it out on our Discord where Andrew explains why it makes sense. Welcome to Backseat Directing,
where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew
and Aaron.
We put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
And on this episode, we're talking about one of the best animated films of the year, The Wild Robot.
3, 2, 1, action!
All right, here we go. Andrew, this has been one of your favorite movies of the year, let alone one of your favorite animated movies of the year. I finally got to see it this past weekend, and I'm excited to talk about it with you today.
Yeah, in my mind, there's really no competition with this movie for Best Animated Movie of the Year. I do think when it comes time for Oscar season that it's going to have competition coming from Inside Out 2. But I feel like there's really no competition. Inside Out 2, great movie, well animated, emotional. I think it falls a little bit short of the original Inside Out. I think the original Inside Out is a little bit better. But then, like, what else are you going to tell me competes with it? You're going to tell me Kung Fu Panda 4 and Despicable Me 4 compete with The Wild Robot? Absolutely no chance. Snowflake's chance in hell of that being true.
I haven't seen those two, but I also agree that those aren't close. I did like Inside Out 2 a lot. I'd say it's closer to the first one than what you think it is. So I think the battle will be between those two films.
Pixar just is it's a powerhouse when it comes to award season. Pixar wins. That's what they do. They are stellar animators. Do you think
there's no Spider-Verse this year, so
which Spider-Verse lost?
Yeah, but the first one won.
Yeah.
Who won last year?
The Boy and the Heron.
That's right.
Over Spider-Verse was crazy in my opinion.
Yeah.
I saw both movies. I liked both movies. Spider-Verse was just like a generational animated movie.
Yeah. For the second time.
For you, who are you picking if you had to choose right now on the spot for the Oscar for Best Animated Feature?
Recency bias, maybe. The Wild Robot, probably. But I did like Inside Out too. I'd want to watch them both again.
I've actually watched Inside Out 2 more recently than I've watched Wild Robot.
Yeah?
Because it's up on Disney+.
And it still hasn't skewed you, huh?
Yeah. I still would put The Wild Robot on
That's
top.
incredible. Honestly, this is character growth for you. To be able to watch a movie and still have another movie be above it on your rankings for the year, that's impressive.
I saw The Wild Robot in IMAX, and then I saw it a second time, and I only saw Inside Out in theaters once.
Yeah.
Which I think we saw in Dolby, maybe?
Yeah, I didn't get to see The Wild Robot in theaters. I really wanted to, but I did get to watch it yesterday with my mom, and it was great. I think this is also kind of nice, too, to be able to put this episode out maybe a little bit later from when the movie was released, give more people an opportunity to watch the movie before watching a recap on it. So I'm excited to hopefully have more people kind of click on this video and join in the conversation of The Wild Robot.
Yeah, and I just looked it up right now. The Wild Robot does still have showtimes. So, this video is probably not going to come out for a week, but The Wild Robot's still showing in theaters. Kids' movies tend to stay in for a really long time. So by the time you see this, you may still have the chance to go check it out if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, before we continue on to our review, we want to say thank you for clicking on this video and joining us on this rating and review for The Wild Robot. We appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any other episodes that we put out. Ready to get into this review?
Yeah, next we're going to go into kind of the details for the movie, the ratings and earnings, and then I'll go into the cast and crew, and then we'll talk about our ratings.
Absolutely. So this movie came out in 2024, rated PG. It is an hour and 42 minutes long. I think that's a perfect movie length. IMDb has it at an 8.3 out of 10. And you're like, oh, that sounds average. What about the Rotten Tomatoes? Well, here, I'm going to tell you what the Rotten
8.3 is not
Tomatoes are.
average, by the way. I feel like you're downplaying the 8.3. It's hard to get above an 8 on IMDb. So. It's hard.
I guess so. I feel like, yeah.
IMDb average is probably closer to like 6.8.
Okay, that's fair. But I feel like a lot of the movies we watch are kind of in the 8s, you know? Or at least review as a higher movie. Anyways, the Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score, the tomato meter has it at a 98%. And then that's with 226 reviews. The popcorn meter, which is the audience, is also a 98% with 5,000 plus ratings. So that's maybe where you can see how I said that the 8.3 is a lot lower in comparison to a 98%, which is really high.
Just to put in perspective, I see what you're saying, but just to put in perspective, 8.3 is the rating on IMDb of the movies that are in the top 100 from 81 down. So the 81 high out of thousands of movies, the movie at 81 on IMDb has an 8.3. So it is a pretty high score.
So is this in the top 100 movies of all time then?
No, because it's also weighted based on the amount of ratings, and it hasn't been out nearly as long. So it's not in the top 100. But there's 20 movies that are rated 8.3.
All right. The budget for this movie was $78 million, and the box office, as of right now, has brought in $308 million. So
Success.
Pretty darn good for what their budget was.
And still showing in theaters.
Yeah. Definitely. When I rented it yesterday, it was $16.
I wasn't sure if you were going to want to pay to see it when I suggested it. I wasn't sure if you were going to. But it's a good deal. I mean, that's probably cheaper than the two of you guys would have spent to go to see it in theaters.
It's honestly probably about the same if we went to Spring Hill, right?
Depends where you go. Yeah, exactly. But a lot of places charge $10.
It was like $8 each.
And it was in the afternoon, so it's like
But we didn't have to drive anywhere. Yeah. We didn't have to drive all the way to Spring Hill.
But yeah, so you watched it on Prime Video?
Yeah.
So if you're listening, that's where you can check it out right now. You can either go to theaters, which is weird that it's already on Prime Video for rental. We live in such a weird streaming world nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, the rental's not cheap, but it is maybe cheaper if you have a whole family.
People, definitely cheaper.
And I didn't buy any snacks. I ate my own dinner that I brought. So that saves you another $10, $15 right there.
Another good point.
Because I have a hard time watching a movie without food, so...
But a big success, obviously not nearly a success on the scale of Inside Out 2, which might help that win the Oscar since it made like $1.6 or $1.7 billion, and this movie only made $300 million. But DreamWorks is sometimes underappreciated in my eyes. We've been talking about the concept of eventually doing a debate on the best animation studio and which one has the best movies. So comment and let us know if you want to see that debate on our channel. We might probably have to get a third person because I would be interested in just taking the angle of DreamWorks just to see what happens. Because I love DreamWorks, How to Train Your Dragon, Puss in Boots movies, Shrek, Wild Robot.
The reason we haven't done this is because everyone we've asked to come in has been like, oh, Pixar and Disney are too close. We would need a different one for that third. So what do you guys think? Should we argue those three? We have DreamWorks, Pixar, and Disney, or should we switch out Disney for something else?
We've got other options like Illumination and Studio Ghibli, but I don't think Illumination really has the track record to go against that. Studio Ghibli would probably be the only other one.
Yeah, I think Illumination's done very well in the box office.
Yeah.
But I don't think it has the same quality of storytelling as the other two studios.
I mean, the Lorax is great. Despicable Me is a lot of fun. I don't think they have the longevity, maybe, the history that obviously that Pixar and Disney have. I mean, Pixar with Toy Story changed the game a long time ago. It was like 95.
Yeah.
So it's hard to compete with that.
I love how often you bring up this debate.
I want to do this debate.
I know you do.
I think people will come out of the woodwork for DreamWorks and back me up. Come on. Have you guys seen the Puss in Boots: The Last Wish? God, the emotional connection of How to Train Your Dragon. There's a lot of Shrek fans out there, too.
That is true. All right, let's get into the creators, both in front of the camera and behind the camera.
That's the two options.
Of The Wild Robot.
Okay, yeah, this is an interesting one because it's an animated movie. So our director for The Wild Robot is Chris Sanders, which you may know his name because he's the writer and director of a little film called Lilo and Stitch. I think that is his first big project that he did back in the day. obviously with Disney. And he would go on to do some more recent projects with DreamWorks. He did How to Train Your Dragon and now The Wild Robot. So he's kind of a big deal. But he has awesome directing and writing credits. Well, I'm missing one. He's also did The Croods, which I believe is another DreamWorks project as well. This movie was written by Chris Sanders as well. The credits for the book go to Peter Brown. Peter Brown wrote the book for The Wild Robot. It's a 3-part trilogy, a science fiction story about a robot that's dropped in the wild and how it would interact with nature. I think it's called The Wild Robot, and then The Wild Robot Escapes. And then there's a third one, The Wild Robot Protects. So it's a 3-part trilogy. You can find those books on Amazon. Sierra definitely purchased them because he has an obsession. Let's see. The music was done by Chris Bowers, who I think did a phenomenal job. They originally reached out to John Powell, who's one of my favorite composers because he did the music for How to Train Your Dragon, which has my favorite track of all time with Test Drive. Go listen to Test Drive on Spotify right now. It's okay, you don't need to listen to it. You got me. Cinematography credit is for Chris Stover. The editing credit is for Mary Blee. And then let's talk about what you guys really want to know, the cast of this movie. Because if you didn't stick around until after the credits, you might be surprised to find out how star-studded this cast is. Lupita Nyong'o brings in leading this cast as Roz. Pedro Pascal is Fink, the fox. Kit Connor is Bright Bill, the bird. Bill Nye is Longneck, the other bird, the older bird. Stephanie Sue is Vontra, which is that like little floating robot contraption that kind of looks like the squid things from the Matrix.
Yep.
Matt Berry is Paddler, the beaver. Ving Rhames is Thunderbolt, the falcon, which is actually Ving Rhames' second appearance in not only an animated movie, but in an animated movie directed and written by Chris Sanders, because he is in Lilo and Stitch. He's that like really uptight FBI agent guy with the sunglasses. Cool. Mark Hamill voices Thorn, the bear. Catherine O'Hara voices Pinktail, which is the possum. That's what it is. Boone Storm versus Baby Bright Bill. As Baby Bright Bill, such a good job. Mm-hmm. So cute. And I think those are the most notable cast members. I won't take up your time reading every single person on the cast, but they did such a good job. And with Lupita Nyong'o at the helm, her voice was transformative. We can talk about it more when we get into acting because that covers voice acting.
Absolutely. So this kind of brings us into our ratings of the film, and that is we break it down into 6 different categories. This helps us be as objective as possible, because a lot of times coming out of the movie you could throw out a number, but there's a lot of aspects to filmmaking, so we want to make sure we give credit to every aspect.
Yeah, no matter who tells you that our rating system doesn't make sense, it does.
It does.
I promise it does.
Check it out on our Discord where Andrew explains why it makes sense. But yeah, we break it up into 6 different categories, and then we total those scores together to get our overall rating out of 10, starting with what we think is the most important aspect of filmmaking, and that is the story. This is out of 10 points. Andrew, what did you give the story of The Wild Robot?
I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Woo-hoo-hoo! That's pretty high.
I think the concept is just really cool. It's the idea of a robot being dropped in nature, and then the concept of found family mixed with, love overpowering all things, love overpowering programming, love overpowering, all obstacles, whether it be, the tragedy and loss or the differences across even species. So I think it's a great metaphor for found family, for people of differences, different backgrounds, different cultures, still being able to connect everybody. And then also the environmentalist themes about, obviously there's a lot of destruction of nature and corporate greed and things that go on in our real world. And this movie has a cool theme about the actual creation of the capitalists and creation of the industrious turning against it and fighting on the side of nature, because she is a wild robot. But what did you think? What did you rate it?
I give it an 8.5 out of 10 for pretty much all of the same reasons you said right there.
So close. And
I know.
We're already off track.
So close.
That elusive, perfect match.
We have yet to rate a movie with the exact same numbers in all 6 categories.
The odds are so
maybe
low.
another time.
The odds are even lower.
We're gonna freak out when it happens.
We're gonna get to like we're gonna have all the same, and then on rewatchability, the last category we're gonna have
Yeah,
a
it's
different
gonna be different. One of us will have to change it.
Yeah, you'd be obligated. Then we'd have to debate about who changes it.
Yeah, we don't know each other's scores going into our reviews.
That would ruin all the fun.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this was a great story. I laughed a lot. I got emotional, felt the sadness in two parts, especially one in the middle of the story and then one at the end of the story.
Is it when they're running and Brett Bill's on
Yeah,
Ross's arm, and then she like runs out to the tree, and
yeah, that was emotional.
I feel like it's like a metaphor for your kid leaving for college.
Yeah, definitely. And then the ending too, you know.
It's hard. It's got to be hard as a parent, especially I'm nowhere near that stage of having a kid that old. But the concept of you take care of this child and you raise them with the goal of them being independent, and then when it actually comes time for them to be independent, being so heartbreaking to cut those ties and have them, move away, and it's really heartwarming how Bright Bill comes back, and
Yeah.
and Roz has not left and has stayed and waited.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the overcoming obstacles too that Bright Bill had to go through, being the runt of the litter. Do you call
Yeah, I guess
that
that's
a litter? A group
Yeah,
of
maybe.
baby geese?
Flock. Probably not a flock.
I don't know. But he was the smallest one. His wings are smaller, so going on hibernation, he would have had a less likely chance of being able to make it. And there was an epic training montage in the middle of this film. No one told me how cool that was going to be.
Cool. With Thunderbolt.
Dude, he was going through full out resistance training. The personal trainer inside of me was so proud.
Holding the rock.
Holding the rock.
Your wings.
Going against the wind.
Dude, Thunderbolt said, "Your wings are the teeth of the sky."
Yeah, Thunderbolt was so cool.
Super cool.
Teaching this goose how to cut through wind like a hawk.
Were you glad when they went and found a trainer? You're
Yes.
like, you gotta stop guessing. You gotta find an experienced trainer.
You have to know.
Roz can't fly or swim.
Go.
But yeah, it's so well done, and there's so many good parallels. The writing is so great. I love the dialogue, and
It was funny too.
It was the part with the possums are so funny. A possum, but
When one of the kids dies, she's like, "Oh no!"
she's like,
And
"I'm
then
still here, Mom." Great.
Oh, awesome.
Or when she's like giving them the names from the last litter. That was the last litter. But I feel like there's so many cool metaphors for not only adoptive parenting, but just motherhood in general. Like they write these sneaky little lines that you probably wouldn't catch. It's like innuendo basically, but you wouldn't catch as a kid, but you'd catch as an adult where, especially when she's talking to Catherine O'Hara's character, Pinktail, and she's like, this little thing follows me around and makes simple tasks difficult to impossible. And it's like, talking about being a parent, like the kid's gonna follow you around. It's gonna make things more difficult.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not. She's like, I'm not programmed for this. And she says, well, nobody is.
are,
yeah. So cool innuendos like that.
Yeah. And what else did she say? I'm trying to brain fart there.
That same conversation.
Yeah, where she was talking about. I lost it.
Eat, swim, fly by fall.
I'll come back.
But yeah, so the goal throughout the movie is for Roz to take this little gosling and teach it to eat, swim, and fly by fall. And there's another element of the story, there's such great character development, because if you think about what you talked about when Roz crashes into that nest and who Roz is at that point in time, with just a singular mission and goal and very, uncomplicated and very direct in approach to who Roz will become later in the story, so much character development in the evolution of Roz's AI and in her development of an ability to care and love. Like the spark of her meeting the Gosling, little Bright Bill, is just the ignition, and the fire grows in her so much. Because we see that, or like I talked about when we did the trailer reaction, the color of Roz's eyes will be linked to different emotions that the robot is experiencing throughout the film. So we get like yellow eyes or red eyes, maybe in situations of fear or danger. We get, her I think her static color is blue, but they turn a bright, vibrant pink when she touches heads with the Gosling for the first time. And she's like experiencing a spark of love or connection with something for the first time. And you talked about being hit by some of the emotional parts in the movie. The one that got me, the connection that got me, was Fink and Roz. The moment that I really started to cry was when she's going to leave, and Fink says, What if I want to tell you something and you're not there?
Yes.
'Cause
That line
yeah,
specifically,
yes,
because at first he was like saying more of like standard things, like what if I need somewhere to stay or,
yeah,
stuff like that. But then that one where he's being all personal and he's always been like,
alone.
yeah, alone, but he's also been like more nonchalant about their relationship with both uh, Roz and Bright Bill. He's kind of acting like he's, tough.
It's that veneer, that cover,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a sly fox,
But that one just really got me because I feel like that they put words to something that I've felt, and I think I might have touched on this before on the show, but my grandfather passed away a few years ago, and I was really very very close to my grandfather, and I think that's one of the hardest things for me that I think about often is when I think about something that I would love to tell him about or show him, and I have to remember that he's not there for me to share things with anymore, and I think that they really struck a nerve with that. That's why I started crying. But like my grandfather was great with cars. When I have car trouble, I think, man, if he was here, he could help me with this. Or when I see a great movie, he loved movies. He's the one that got me into movies. That's why I've probably talked about it before on the show. But I want to recommend a movie to him or this or that, And so I think that's something a lot of people can resonate with. It's why these movies like this, whether it's Pixar or DreamWorks, are so good because kids can appreciate it and feel the emotionality, but the adults, as you age with it, you can appreciate it on a deeper level because you have these like things in the movie that are too deep to understand at a certain age. Like all the things we're talking about with motherhood and parenthood is there's this. I want to show. I was encouraging mothers that I know to watch this movie because I was like, you might cry. Like this movie has a lot of really good themes, especially for motherhood. I think.
Yeah, like kids can understand that it's sad, like when when Bright Bill's leaving, but then adults can understand why it's so sad.
Yeah.
And you get to experience it on a deeper level, and those are the best kind of movies that appeal to all ages.
But they do such a good job of that, and they do such a good job of disguising it in this mold that's like little animated animals that talk and robots.
Yeah.
Like it's they couldn't play that exact same story in the same way for kids.
Yeah, and another thing that like stuck out to me that is like, oh, like cute and fun, but also like, oh, as an adult, like that's kind of dark. A lot of animals died in the making of this film. So many. Like left and right, the animals were dying, whether it's from Fink picking up the crab and throwing it into the boiling water right away, or
The worms.
or Roz falling onto the nest and killing the whole family of.
Yeah, when he picked up the wing, I was like,
oh my
that
God.
is bleak. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, poor thing.
And they did it like a number of times throughout the whole thing.
But I love Bill Nighy's character. Bill Nighy voices Bright Bill. And I love him, the actor as well. I just watched About Time this morning. And he's so great in that movie. I think that a line that he touches on about that loss is so poignant where he says...
Bill Nighy, long neck. You said Bright Bill.
Oh, I meant, sorry. Yeah. Kit, what's his name, is
Kit Connor.
Is Bright Bill. I meant to say long neck.
Okay.
He's a different goose.
Yeah.
But he has such a great line that touches on that in the movie where he tells Bright Bill how the loss of his family is probably what saved his life.
Yes.
Because if Roz hadn't been there, then he would have been left behind. He said, "Do you see any other geese here with
your
wings?"
size?"
Yeah. So I think that
perspective.
Yeah, it touches on perspective and also just the animal kingdom itself. How like Fink talks about this. Like nature is harsh. Nature is not gentle. But sometimes bad things happen for a reason. Whether it's his family dying for him to eventually live, or whether it's sometimes it rains and one area needs water and another area there's a flood. Nature is harsh, but it takes the bad and the good.
Yeah, it's telling you to look for the silver lining in a bad situation.
Exactly.
Yeah, great story. We both rated it really high. Do you want to go on to the acting, because we're kind of getting into that?
Let's do it.
Territory, anyways. Acting is our next category. In this case, it's voice acting and kind of the animators kind of bringing that voice to life as well. So the performance of these characters is what we're rating on this category. This is out of 10. What'd you give it, Andrew?
I gave it an 8.5.
An 8.5. I'm at an 8, so 0.5 behind you once again.
Maybe we'll get that this time. The elusive 1 point away the whole time.
Yeah.
If we're within a point the whole time, that's like halfway there.
Dude, that'd be incredible.
That'd be nice too.
That'd be incredible.
I largely gave it a high score because I think of Lupita Nyong'o. I think she had the most transformative approach to her voice work.
As Roz?
Yeah, I think you could still tell that she was Rosam, but at the same time, she had an inflection that was very robotic, but also with these notes of emotion throughout the movie that would grow as the movie went along, which the voice work was tied in with the character development. We always love when that acting shows that. But I just think if I just close my eyes and listen to her and no visual representation, I would say she's voicing a robot. You know, is
Definitely.
she?
I don't recognize her voice.
Have you seen you've seen Lupita Nyong'o before? Yeah, obviously because she's in Black Panther. But yeah, I'd say she probably changed her voice the most of anyone in the cast. I mean, excuse me, Ving Rhames, Bill Nighy, Mark Hamill changed it a little bit, but still sounds like Mark Hamill. Stephanie Sue I think is another one that does a good robotic voice, but hers even sounds more human. It has more of the human flow, just a little bit more sing-songy. But I think
To help transition these robots.
yeah, exactly. She said, just to make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But I think of all people, Lupita changed her voice the most. I mean,
Yes.
Pedro Pascal, I think his voice was just his voice.
I didn't recognize his voice. I forgot that he was in there because we did the reaction to the trailer forever ago, and we talked about who was in it.
It's a long time ago.
And I didn't see the pre-credits, roll through and see his name, so I forgot that it was him.
A lot of movies don't do pre-credits anymore. Like a lot of movies don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're obligated to. I think they have to. At least while the movie's playing, have starring blah blah blah, and then come on.
I'm telling you, I think a decent amount of movies don't.
Really? Yeah. Name a movie that you don't think has it.
I just know that David Fincher always does it, and it's kind of notable that he does it because I feel like I miss it in some modern movies.
I'm almost positive that's in every movie and that they have to put it in there.
I mean, I just watched Red One last night. I don't remember it being in the opening. I could be wrong.
No way that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's name does not show up in the beginning of that movie.
Dwayne Johnson's face is his recognition. He doesn't need his name.
No, he needs it all. He needs his name on that movie's opening.
His face is his footprint. His face is his handprint. His face is everything. His face is his signature.
There's no way that he went through that movie without that being in the front. We're gonna keep an eye out for it. And when you find a movie that doesn't have it, you let me know.
I'll go on Netflix right after this.
There we go. I'm excited.
We're talking about acting.
Acting.
So I think that Bill Nighy had a really good vocal performance in this movie because every time when his character Longneck was speaking, I was totally locked in and feeling the emotionality. I feel like
those were the most emotional scenes.
He had some of the best lines.
Yeah,
some of the best lines.
He was preaching.
My favorite line in the movie is when he says, "If where his wings fall short, his heart can pay the balance."
Yes,
and that's in the trailer, and it's such a good line. If his heart can pay the balance,
so good. The whole time I was watching Fink, I was thinking of the Fox from Zootopia.
Oh, yeah.
What's his name?
Nick.
Yes. And I liked that performance better. And since it reminded me so much, I feel like I didn't like Pedro Pascal's performance as much.
Do you know who that is?
Yeah. I do.
Jason Bateman.
Yes, that's right.
Jason Bateman.
I think they all did a good job.
Sly Fox, dumb buddy.
Yes.
But very similar personalities too, like the Guile and Sly Fox.
Might.
With Andrew's brains and Aaron's might. We'll make it through the night.
Something like that.
Yeah, but I think everyone's strong voice performance. I expected Stephanie Sue to maybe be in it a little bit more. She wasn't in it until the third act, but when she showed up, I thought she gave a really good performance.
Yeah.
So I think everyone delivered and did their jobs, and I wouldn't have been crying in this movie if it wasn't for the voice. I mean,
sure.
Pedro Pascal's voice when he says, "What if I want to tell you something and you're not here?" has that like waver and crack in it. It's like
Yeah.
holding back
Yeah,
tears.
yeah.
So
I still felt all the emotionality from his character.
yeah,
You know. All right, ready to go on to our next category?
yeah, let's do it.
This is cinematography. This is encapsulates a lot into this category. Normally, or in this instance as well, it's the camera movement, the composition, the lighting, the edit, the color grade, all of that stuff goes in. But then in this film as well, we're gonna include the animation, the style elements to the film and stuff. So there's a lot going on here. This is also out of 10 points. This is the aspect of the movie that really caught our attention from the trailer. That first teaser trailer that they dropped was purely cinematics. There was no dialogue at all, just a cover of a song.
I see dreams.
And flashes of shots from the movie. So, Andrew, what did you give cinematography of The Wild Robot?
Come on.
Did you give it a 10?
I gave it 10.
You gave it a 10. I gave it a 9 out of 10.
He's a hater.
I gave it a 9 out of 10.
We're still 1 away.
Yeah, but we've been half a point away.
Yeah, but if it's within 1, we're close for the whole thing.
Yeah, but now we're not like the same distance the whole time.
I don't want to be half a point away from you on this one. I want to be at a 10.
All right. Why'd you give it a 10?
Because it's one of the most beautiful things I've seen in my whole life.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
Gorgeous animation. Gorgeous animation.
is.
They play with different animation styles too. When we have Fink telling the bedtime story, it's kind of that more like chalk drawn animation style. And they did a reference to the Dreamworks logo. They had Roz sitting up on the moon. So anytime they play with different styles, I love that. But then just the movement of water, the movement of fire, the variation of their color spread, the way that when they would have fire, it would blend from really bright, vibrant hues of yellow to red to purples, the way they would cast light onto Roz as she's like running through the forest that's burning, and just really, really beautiful, beautiful use of color. And then using color to tell a story as well with the different colorations in Roz's eyes. I think that they drew the hell out of this movie. I mean, when they animated this movie, they cooked to no end.
Yeah, absolutely. The style was amazing. The water looks perfect. It looks
Gorgeous.
Real.
Yeah.
Feels like you could touch that water from the screen.
All the settings, the snow, the rocky cliffs with its like rectangular jagged edges. I mean, everything that they filled the world with was detailed, and it felt like when you're out in nature looking at a beautiful skyline. It just felt very visually pleasing.
The camera angles and movement was fantastic. We got some POV shots. The opening shot where we're looking at Roz's eye and it's like a fish lens.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that we're like watching a reflection and the camera backs up. It probably took them a while to edit out the camera reflection in the eye. But it was well worth the pain that they had to go through to
CGI
to get that out of there.
The other thing that looked really cool was the time lapse shots. They did, I think 2. They did one in the weather changing and one of Roz learning the languages of the different animals. And so much detail goes into that for an animation. Because an actual time lapse shot, you're just sitting in the camera somewhere doing a bunch of things, but you've got to really put the work into. You got to like compress 10 minutes of movie and time lapse it up into.
Yeah.
So I think that they just did such a good job telling the story visually. I agree. Especially like their use of light in this movie. I feel like
it's phenomenal.
They did Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and they were like, let's bring that into this next project of ours. They really brought the same animation caliber. I don't know how they're doing the next movie the next movie they're doing is like Dog Cop or something, and it looks so silly to come. It's a crazy follow up to Wild Robot. I'll find a picture of it for you. It looks like Captain Underpants style.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm sure they have multiple teams, working on different projects all at one time. I mean, you have to. These movies take years to make.
It's called Dogman.
Dogman.
It looks just like the animation style of Captain Underpants.
It does. Yeah, that's crazy.
But kids, I'm sure kids will like it. So that's their bread and butter. It's their audience.
Interesting.
They don't have to make movies for me. I'm 25.
Watch it be one of your favorite movies.
Dogman is the best movie of 2025.
That'd be a plot twist. Anything else about the cinematography that you want to talk about? I second what you said. The color and the use of light was absolutely phenomenal.
Animating light, I feel like, is a tricky thing. And animating light and water sound to me like two of the hardest things. I'm not in the field, so I'll take that with a grain of salt. But they just did such a good job of building their world, and every character, despite being an animal, has such a distinct look to them that you recognize that animal regardless of them speaking with the voice actor.
Yeah,
Like you can
definitely.
pick Longneck out of a group of 50 geese, you know? So
Yeah,
they just did such a great job with their design.
definitely. Our next category is sound design. This includes the score, the soundtrack, and all of the sound effects, the Foley work. Um, Andrew really likes to point out that all of these sound effects, like they have to go out and find them outside of the film since none of it can be captured
There's
in real life at all.
no scratch audio.
Exactly. You can't, even in a regular movie, live action, they're going in and adding the sound effects after the fact, but a lot of times they'll record some of the sound that they're using live on set. Even if it's like after the actual dialogue take that they do, they'll go in and put the microphone real close to the coins dropping on the table or something like that, so they can get that sound in that room that they're actually shooting in.
Yeah.
But an animated film, you can't do that.
At the very
So
least, they
you
have
get a lot of
reference sound.
yeah, you get a lot more creativity, I think, with an animated film. You could maybe add in a lot more sounds that maybe wouldn't actually be what you would hear there, but in animation it works.
Yeah. And it's cool too. I mean, this happens in live action as well, but you have to invent sounds for things that don't even exist. It happens in live action with a lot of sci-fi movies. Like Nolan has to come up with sounds for what a spaceship sounds like in Interstellar, what time travel sounds like. And then in Wild Robot, they have to make up a sound for what a robot picking up a tree sounds like. You know, what is I mean, yes, it's metal against wood, but what do the hinges of the robot sound like? What are all these little details that you might not think of just watching the movie, but it incorporates into how you absorb it when you're watching it.
This category is out of 10 points. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. We're back to being a half point away from each other. I'm at an 8.5.
Always below. Maybe above. I think that this movie has really, really strong sound. I love, again, back to the water, the sounds of the water just at the opening, the waves crashing, all the
Sounds of the animals.
the sounds of Roz. They add this filter to her voice to make her sound more robotic, which really elevates the perception of the character. The sounds of fires and explosions in the third act of the film as they're falling through the air, and she's takes Bright Bill and puts him in her chest. I mean, but on top of that, the original score in this movie reminds me so much of John Powell's score from the first How to Train Your Dragon movie. It felt very emotional. It felt like these really powerful strings and chords, and it just resonated really strongly. I feel like strings are an instrument that really like cut through to the heart. And this movie had
Pulls your heartstrings, huh?
but this movie had really, really powerful waves of music. And like the training montage, or like the climactic scene I mentioned when they're falling through the air, and Roz says, "I have everything I need." Like the musical swells in those moments, it builds so beautifully that it really draws you into the film because of the build. Because it's not like snapping you in and out of the movie. It has this kind of crescendo effect where like as the scene gets more climactic, more emotional, you are enveloped in it more and you feel it more. And so I feel like the music of this job, it felt like they got John Powell without getting him.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like for me, the music of a film is the last thing I notice when watching a movie. And I feel like that's the case for most people watching movies. I tend to really only notice it, one, if it's great. It's beyond amazing. And it really sticks out and you're kind of humming it after the film. Maybe that one or two songs play a few times. It's like the theme of the character that keeps coming back.
Like the Red One score.
Right, exactly. Humming that all day long, saying thank you, rock, thank you. But
It's
then
not drive, it's about power.
the second time that I would notice is maybe like on a rewatch where I'm like really paying attention to maybe the aspects that I missed the first time around. But I gave it an 8.5 because I felt all the emotion throughout the whole story, and you can't do that without having the music be spot on. Even if I maybe didn't notice the music the whole time throughout the movie, it's there carrying the emotion of the scene and the emotion of the film. So maybe on a rewatch, I could give it that 9 that you gave it, because maybe I'd pay attention to it more and really appreciate it to like that next level. But yeah, I think they did a fantastic job, like you said, of tying the story together. And the sound design was fantastic.
Yeah, so we're going high scores on this movie.
We are.
Really high
Yeah.
scores. So what's our next category?
Our next category is set and character design. This is a fun category when it comes to animated films because all of it is being created from scratch. There is literally nothing on the paper when they're starting for this film. They have to create what these characters look like. Set and character design is kind of like the reason why we're in these locations, the reason why a character is dressed the way they're dressed or animated the way that they're animated. This is out of 5 points. What did you give this category, Andrew?
You gave it a 4 out of 5.
Wow, we're synced here. We're in sync. I gave it a 4 out of 5 as well. I thought the Roz looks amazing. All the other characters look great. Bright Bill is adorable when he's the little baby hatchling.
It's the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Beep boop beep boop. Yeah. Or even when he's a little bit older and he's like swimming and he's like
Hola, Bujambo.
And then of course the environments look absolutely stunning. Looks like something right out of a vacation catalog or a National Geographic documentary. Yeah, what do you have to say about the set and character design?
I really think that the strongest contender for my character design rating would be Roz's design. I think Roz is designed in a really cool fashion. It's an interesting change from the book. If you look at the cover of the book, Roz is a lot more rectangular, and then she's a lot more obviously rounded and spherical in the movie. I think it plays really well to like a sleek, futuristic design. It seems more futuristic to have those like clean curves. It's like reminds me of Prometheus, how everything's clean and smooth in the future of Prometheus. I think she's designed really well. A lot of cool utility. She has all these little extensions that come out, and her POV is really cool. So I really enjoyed Roz, and then everything else is just beautiful. I think Roz is the most uniquely designed thing in the movie, but everything else just
completely made up.
Looks good and serves its purpose.
Yeah, definitely. Thought all the characters were really enjoyable to watch too.
Yeah, I like the design of their little house as well. The little dome.
Yeah, they stole it right from the beaver.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know.
Yeah. Paddler.
Yeah. All right. Our last category is rewatchability. The way we phrase this category's question is if you were doing absolutely nothing and someone asked you 5 times to watch this movie, how many times would you say yes, Andrew? Out of 5?
Obviously. 5 out of
5 out of 5. I give it a 4 out of 5.
You're a hater.
Just to make you upset.
Aaron hates the movie.
Yeah, I asked you if you wanted to watch it last night and you said no. So
I think this is like a gold star movie. I think this is
it's a lot of fun.
I gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd. If somebody said, "Do you want to watch The Wild Robot right now?" I would say throw it on. Like it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
And animated movies have that quality. Another benefit of giving it a perfect score, I think, or another point to it getting a perfect score would be that it's an hour and 42 minutes long. Like you said, it's a reasonable runtime. Animated movies tend to be shorter, and I feel like animated movies are just very digestible. They're digestible for all ages. You know, you can put it on with kids in your family. You can watch it with people of really any age. So I feel like it's eclectic kind of movie that everyone can enjoy, family fun, and it's hilarious. And it's great emotionality. So I could watch it anytime.
It's one of those movies that you can put on and you can feel all the emotions every time that you watch it. You know, like even though you know what's happening, you're still gonna feel the sad points of the film. But then you're gonna laugh a ton and smile and have a good time with the characters. Like when Bright Bill's trying to help build their house and is like knocking on Roz's leg to put the stick on, and she like picks him up and then picks him up again and then picks him up again, and now she's going a lot slower than she wants to, but Bright Bill gets the help.
Your inefficient assistance will make this task harder.
Yeah.
I think that this movie, what's great about it is, like you said, it has times where you can still feel that emotionality, but it has such a good balance in terms of themes and emotions that it always bounces back. So it's not like a movie like Schindler's List where it's has sad moments, but it's so overwhelming that you can't watch Schindler's List every day.
Yeah. But then it's also not just too happy-go-lucky where, you know, like,
Unrealistic.
right, exactly.
Has no weight.
What does this bring your total score to for The Wild Robot?
It's actually a really high score. Brings my total score to a 9.1 average out of 10.
Woo-hoo.
One of the highest.
That's pretty close to your The Dark Knight movie.
Yeah, I think Dark Knight was like a 9.4. Django's
Yeah.
around there as well.
Yeah, this is one of the few movies that are in the nines for you. My score came out to an 8.4, which is real close to the IMDb score of
Which you
8.3.
thought was low.
Yeah, that's why we do this. That's why we do this.
What do you have to say to defend yourself, Aaron? The people
That it's actually really hard to get an 8 on IMDb.
look into the camera and apologize for your sins.
No, this movie was a lot of fun. I'm glad I finally got to watch it. I do wish that I saw it in theaters.
But I gave you a good rack.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Okay.
Yep, definitely. I'm glad I watched it.
Are you glad you didn't watch the other movie you were going to watch?
Yes, but I still want to watch it.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
This is my top 3 for the year. My top 3 for the year as of right now, I think, is Challengers, Dune Part 2, and The Wild Robot. And then right below that is Alien Romulus. And
Alien Romulus was really good.
I did also really like Boy Kills World.
Yeah.
And a couple others that I'm forgetting right now. Heretic was really good. That's probably in my top 10, but not, it's not like 6 or 7.
What about Red One?
Red One's like 50.
50? Come
I haven't
on.
watched 50 yet, but
Come on,
it's
you
a
even
placeholder spot.
you even just watched it too. This should be your favorite movie of all time.
That's not how it works. Has to be a good movie to get the recency bias.
Okay. What does Red One have on IMDb right now?
You trying to see if it's close? I bet it has like a 7.
Let's see.
No way it has an 8.3.
Pulling it up here. 6.9.
Yeah, I was
Pretty close, yeah. Off by a point. All right. I think that brings our movie review to an end.
Yeah, this was a fun one. I'm glad that you watched it. Please comment below and let us know what you thought about Wild Robot. And go check this movie out. Log into Aaron's Amazon Prime because it's already rented.
Yeah, you have
8 hours.
By the time this posts, it'll be gone. So unfortunately, I get to hold my password close to the chest.
One day more.
But if you join the Discord,
We can talk about it.
we can talk about it. The Discord is linked in the description of this video. Are we doing that discount for the holidays?
Throw them a bone.
Okay.
They're loyal.
Because this movie was so great, and because you're listening all the way to the end of this episode, we're actually going to discount the price, the entry fee to our
Discord.
I was going to say a much coveted Discord, you know?
Okay.
Like, I was going to really
I'm
like,
sorry, I didn't know you were doing that business.
I was really trying to like, drive
down.
home how exclusive our Discord is. And now it is totally free. Yep. Click that link. It's
100%
free. 100% off. It's actually 0% off because it's always free. But we talk about different movies that we've watched. We do polls and ratings and movie debates. We take episode suggestions and we get to those pretty quick. We actually haven't gotten a suggestion in a little bit, so put in a suggestion. We would love to hear what you want us to talk about. What else do we do in there? We talk about upcoming episodes that we've recorded. So today we'll post in there that we're talking about The Wild Robot. So they'd get kind of a heads up and maybe it sparks an extra conversation about the film. We post new full episodes on YouTube and Spotify every Monday and Thursday. Make sure you hit that subscription button and notification bell so you don't miss anything else that we post. We have a new challenge video coming out here soon for Christmas. Andrew and I went head to head in a cinematic battle. And it was a lot of fun. We filmed that at his house the other day, and we're editing that right now. We're editing that right now, so keep an eye out for that video. It should come out around
Eventually.
Christmas, which is coming up soon.
Coming soon.
So, Andrew, where else can they find us?
You can find us on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, all over the place, or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You can find us on Google This is Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Give the show a 5-star rating and review. It helps the show find new people. That's probably annoying. But you guys can also share us with friends and family. That's the best way to help
Just
the
as
show
annoying
grow.
as your regular voice, actually.
Up. I'm trying to do promo.
Thanks so much for watching, and
That's a wrap.